The 37th Division did not stay long in Ohio. It soon left for a training camp still under construction. On August 4, 1917, Major Houts, who was to supervise part of the work, was among the first to leave. Houts reported to the headquarters,
"The accommodations are far superior to those which the 5th had on the Mexican border last year. Practically all necessary buildings, such as kitchens and bathhouse, practically are completed. Work soon will begin on the camp canteen."
Montgomery, the capital city of Alabama, was finally chosen to host Camp Sheridan. The 37th Division stayed there from September 1917 till May 1918. This training period was barely enough to train men in the division, most of them having no military experience. Camp Sheridan did not come out of nowhere. Part of it had been the site of Vandiver Park, which had already been used for the training of Alabama soldiers. This time it was an entire division, about 30,000 men, that the camp received. The camp was expanded, new buildings added. Private Ray Neal Johnson.
The tents had been put up hastily by C Company, which had come down a month ahead of the regiment to prepare the camp. The first 2 weeks at Camp Sheridan were a nightmare of work. We had to tear out the weeds and cotton plants by the roots.
Private Gracie.
How disappointed we were. Instead of a real camp, all we found was a few mess halls, pine trees, plenty of cotton to pull, and land to clear.
The camp was an important source of income for Montgomery, but receiving such a contingent was a great change for the town. The arrival of several thousand men of Ohio in the cradle of the Confederation was a first since the Civil War. The very name of the camp could have been considered a provocation. Sheridan was one of the leading Northern generals. Johnson.
Montgomery is principally a city of homes, but it also has a flourishing business district and a large cotton and fruit market. The large shops, theaters, and hotels are conveniently and centrally located, and there are ice cream parlors, billiard parlors, barber shops, and stationery stores in plenty.
Private Gracie.
Do you remember your first trip to Montgomery? You didn't go over so hot. Well, we didn't like that so well. We figured we should have rated high there as we did at home. We didn't stop to consider that they had to get acquainted with our ideas and habits. But it wasn't long until the Ohio militia was adopted by the city, and what a home we had.
Howard Sweet, private of the 135th Artillery, remembers.
4 miles, the camp is about 4 miles outside of the city of Montgomery. It was a large tent-citied camp. There were 25,000 people there, 25,000 troops in that camp. And we were 4 miles outside of Montgomery, Alabama. Mm-hmm. Here's the funny part. We had a terrible time when we first went to Montgomery, Alabama, for the simple reason that we were the first northern people of any size in the South since the Civil War. And we had an awful time trying to get established our friendship and so on and so forth. One of the big reasons why they really accepted us was because 25,000 troops. We got paid a dollar a day. We'd get down into Montgomery, Alabama at night. Naturally, we'd spend 50 cents a dollar, something like that, and the merchants were tickled to death to see us come in because of that feature. Well, gradually they kind of welcomed us down. We began to get along fairly decent with the people living down there then.
Montgomery is a symbol of the struggle for civil rights in the 1950s and 1960s.
We shall not be moved.
In 1917, segregation still was the rule in the U.S. Army. Black soldiers formed two divisions, the 92nd and the 93rd. They were trained separately and had a completely different experience of the war, often being integrated into the French army. In order to improve the physical condition of the men, sports practice was encouraged. It was much more popular than conventional military training. Celebrities were involved. Johnny Kilbane, world boxing champion and a native of Cleveland, gave demonstrations at Camp Sherman, Ohio. For its part, Camp Sheridan received one of the finest baseball teams. The Cincinnati Reds made the trip from Ohio. The Reds played several matches against teams of the 37th Division. General Pershing did not wish to have his army stuck in trench warfare. For him, the Allies had to resume the offensive. However, he had to prepare his men for what awaited them in Europe, so they learned to dig trenches. At Camp Sheridan, the enemy trenches were called Frankfurt and Hamburg. The American trenches were named Cleveland and Euclid. There is nothing left of Camp Sheridan. It was planned as a temporary camp, so the structures were not designed to last. Its location is simply marked by some commemorative plaques. In 1963, a veteran of the 37th Division returned to Montgomery.
I got out of my car and walked up and down this old road, the one we all trod 46 years ago. I called up a vision of what was once there, the kitchens and mess halls, the rows of tents, the latrines, the stables, the officers' quarter, the drilling squads and platoons, the hustle and bustle of a division of 28,000 men in training. It's all gone now. All that remains is that little narrow strip of road on which I stood. I must confess to a large lump in my throat.